Hello, welcome to the next installment of experimentation with firing pottery in a fireplace. So as of the end of the last segment of this, I would mention that I was going to show you my foray experience, there we go, with putting on glaze, painting on glaze. So when I said that I'd never done it before, I've never done it with a transparent. I've done it, the first time that I actually ever painted on glaze was when I painted the glaze on these guys. So we'll see how this works. This one is the Emico Clear Transparent LG10. The LG series is Cone 05 or 05 glazes. So it's a low fire glaze. And you can find the charts of which glazes are to be fired at which temperature, or what 05 means temperature-wise. And you can find that online. There's a bunch of charts, and I suggest you look them up if you're interested to find out what does that mean 05 compared to 5, right? They're very different ends of the spectrum of temperature for firing pottery. It's very interesting, a little confusing at times because you're like, wait, how does it work? What is the scale? So it's important to, in this case, know what the temperatures are supposed to be for the anticipated glazing, full glaze to work on a piece. As I mentioned, I have purchased a pyrometer. It's a laser pyrometer, aka a laser thermometer, but they call it a pyrometer for some reason. And that is pretty cool because I got actually a better one where it goes up to like 3,500 degrees or something crazy like that. It's almost like an industrial one. I don't need it to go that hot, but I do want it to go hot enough so that I can detect or determine how, there we go, hot my fire is getting. And I'm doing it so that I will be zapping the actual pieces. So if you want to just hang out for a little bit, I'm going to start putting another coat of glaze. So I have 2 coats on here. It calls for 3 coats of clear. I have 1 coat on here. I'm only going to do 1 coat on here because this has the underglaze of the yellow on it. It's a trash pot. It's got the teal on the inside. Is it teal? Jade, that's the name, jade. That's the color, it's not teal, it's jade. I was thinking that it didn't look like teal. So jade is underneath, and then we have the clear JD10 or whatever it's called, LG10 here on it. I just did 1 coat because that's all I want to do on it. And because this is really the only pot, I guess both of these will stay as pots that I'll actually use maybe, or, you know, have out for stuff. This is good for plant. This is good, I don't know, to be on a shelf. This is more experimentation. I don't want to use up too much of this because this is not cheap. Alrighty, so here we go. Let's dive into it. You'll notice that the lid, when I took it off of the glaze, I always painted, as you probably know if you've seen any of my other videos. If you don't, I paint. One thing that I've learned over the years is that when you have a plastic container that has a screw-on lid, bet you bottom dollar it does not seal very well, just with the lid. So what I do is I take off the plastic top, that seal that's on there, and I stick it in the lid or I leave it on here. Why do I do that? Because it gives it a much better seal. So you've got this extra layer at the top of the plastic so that it's not just the plastic layer hitting hard plastic, which is going to have air coming out of it because it only has like 1 round of threading on it. If it had a lot of threading, you'd be a lot better off. It would actually seal, right? So you're looking at my mouth right now, but whatever. Hi. So what I do is I put that in there, and that will seal back when I put the lid, screw the lid back on. Just word to the wise. I do that with these underglazes as well. When I take off the lid, I will leave the seal on there, or I'll stick it in the lid over here. They will last a lot longer. I do that with all of my all of my paint that come in any kind of bin like that where they're originally sealed, and then I'm using them. So I have a few options for brushes. I've been playing around with brushes. I have a painter's brush that has natural bristles. You can see they're a little bit rough. The focus is in on that. But, and they're a little bit firmer. I don't want too soft. I was playing with the bamboo ones that I have. I have ones that, of these bamboos that have multiples, and they're all stapled, not stapled, but actually they're little bamboo shoots. They're knocked together. They're really cool. And I've got large one, small one, 3 to 4, 5, 6. They're wide brushes. Those are great, except for when you're inside, they get a little clunky and awkward. So with this, I'm actually going to use this one because it fits in my pot. Oopsies, fits in my pot. There you go. And because on the inside of this one, I'm going to be doing opposite direction. So I'm going to be stroking up, and I'll be stroking up on the sides. When I first put this glaze on, I did it around the outside like this. So I'm going to be doing this one and this one. This one has 2 coats. This one has 1 coat. I'm putting a second coat on here, and I'll put a third coat on here. Oh, you know what I did not do, which is very important anytime you use glaze. And I'm finding this out more and more. You know, I'm so far from an expert on any of this. Self-educated on it. Shake your glaze. Shake it, 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 shake your booty. Shake your glaze. So make sure to shake it up, get those particles all mixed up, because all they are is suspended in water. All right, I'm gonna put my stuff back so I have a clean workspace, as clean as I can be for right now. And so I am going to load up my brush. I rinse this out with water, just plain old water. And what is this sitting on? It's on, oh, look at that. It's kind of like one of those cake dishes that where you decorate a cake, but it's made for pottery. Works very well. Now, if I had not actually shaken that, and I know that actually, not probably, but I know that I should have shaken it more. Give it a good, you know, minute and a half of shaking, 2-3 minutes. But for the sake of you all, you don't need to see me sitting here shaking pottery, glaze bucket. So there we go. As I'm doing it, I'm just taking it, drawing it up the outside, and putting it on. You will notice that it dries very fast. So that's good. I want to make sure that it's in all the little crevices, and then I'm going to bring it up around the outside. Now you're wondering why I have it in my hand instead of being down on my little round wheelie thing. Well, sometimes it's good to have it on the round wheelie thing, and other times it's not, because if you're holding onto the pot, this is good, right? Because I can turn it as I go, get it pretty darn even. But as I come around to the wet side, it doesn't help me that much anymore. So sometimes just holding it and turning it in your hands is a better deal. If you're not really stable, sorry for all the clearing of my throat, but I'm all goopy because it just turned evening, and ever since I had COVID, I get all goopy at night. My throat gets all bleh. Anyway, so I apologize for that. And so with turning it, you got to be careful where you're handling it. Got to be careful with how thickly it's going on. All of the above. I want to make sure it's as even as possible. It doesn't need to be pretty, right? This is not a glaze that's going to run. It's not a glaze that's going to be pretty. It just needs to be even. And because this has, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 brushes on it, I'm able to cover a better area. I also don't want it to be too heavy or thick in any areas. There we go. Work my way back a little bit just to even it out. And I'm gonna flip this over. Make sure I don't have any like super heavy spots. It should move a little bit while in the fire. Then I'm just gonna take it, put my fist in there, and use the glaze that's on there. Make sure I get all my nooks and crannies. And then I'm going to wipe all of this glaze off the bottom. Now, considering the way I'm doing it, I'm not going to be setting it on its bottom. I don't think to glaze it, but I'll put it on for right now, just make sure I get the edges, and then I will clean the bottom. I'm not putting it in a kiln, so this is a different process. And I will figure out whether or not I need to clean it when I determine exactly how I'm going to be putting it in the fireplace, right? Because I do want this to come out relatively clean. So there we go. It dries very quickly. My hand on the inside it's actually already dry, and it is meant to do that. So there we go. I'm going to, in between doing these, just to do the one more, I'm going to mix this up again. Make sure that everything that needs to be suspended is suspended. I'm not sure how the clear ones exactly work, what that is. I should look up the chemistry on that, but I haven't yet. So I need a paper towel right here. My best friend in my art room is what? Having multiple rolls, giant rolls of paper towels around. I don't use paper towels too much in that, and what I mean by that is I don't waste paper towels. I use them, get them dirty, rinse them out. Now, why would I do that? Well, I don't really, want to be just wasting paper towels, because I have the ability to have multiple paper towels or lots of paper towels. So what I do is I get them all dirty and everything, and then I rinse it out, leave it out to dry, and then I can reuse them. The one I was using earlier today was so gooped up that I ended up throwing it away. But so just think about those things, they cost money, but they also don't really need to be, in a landfill if you can just reuse them, especially when you're doing artwork. And it's getting things, stuff on it like this, especially like this, that is all water soluble. You can rinse it out and reuse it. When I work with acrylics, I do not ever use paper towels, if possible. You've seen me use paper towels and things, but when I do bigger paintings, I try not to use paper towels. I use regular towels instead. And the reasoning for that, ooh, I want to go up and down. I went sideways last time. Up and down she wandered. Anybody who knows madrigals will get that reference. I gotta hold on to this little bugger. It's got a very, very small foot. Yeah, so use your resources sparingly and wisely if you can. Yeah, so I use a regular towel normally, and then I'll just rinse out that towel as I go. So I have a damp towel while I am painting large scale. And I tend not to clean my brushes in between anyway because of the nature of it. So I'll have a pot there, like fully clean them. I'll rinse them, dry them on my easel, kind of like a Bob Ross type of thing. Yeah, I'm really cool that way. And you know how he goes with his brushes. Well, I don't do that. I do that actually. I have to admit it. Oh, this one's hard to hold on to. So you see the little teeny foot on there. It's adorable, but it makes it difficult to handle it fully. So this has underglaze, and then it's got some of the jade low fire glaze on there, the majolica, which I'm, guaranteed that if you tell me that I use the majolica completely incorrectly, I will agree with you, because I was reading on it. It's like, oh, you're supposed to have this specific underglaze, whatever majolica is. Just kidding. It is a type of glaze. It's a type of glazing that you use with a certain technique. Well, I didn't use the technique. I kind of threw that out the window just to do testing on it, because it's fun to find out how it's going to work for me for what I'm doing. There. There we go. And that's all I'm needing to do on that. I'm going to stick this in my water and rinse it off in a minute. And I am going to cover up my clear glaze, clean off the outside so it doesn't get goopy, because it's nice to not pick things up and have it all crunchy and goopy. And we're gonna move on. So the next time I see you, let me put you up a little higher. Next time I see you, there you are, I am going to be heating these in the front of the fire, and I'm gonna be looking into seeing if I can do like a firing box around them. And even if I need to fire each one individually, but I'm looking at how to do that. I discovered this thing that everybody's apparently known about in kilns when they have like a finer finish, and it's like a pit fire, or sorry, I'm losing my words, pit fire or a wood fire, that you can put them in a box that gets very, very hot, but keeps a lot of the carbon off of these, which the carbon will turn it black. And so you don't get that sort of Raku interaction with it. And I want to play around with Raku later in the fireplace to see if I can get any of that with the carbon on it and everything, because the Raku is, you know, firing really and getting it really hot really quickly and then cooling it off quickly and putting stuff on it, which I think is cool. But this is something different because we're playing with glazes and underglazes. All right, so I will see you soon at the fireplace. Hi, I just placed the pots in front of the fireplace. Got a roaring fire going. Let's use the pyrometer next to see what the fire temperature is inside the fire. I'm curious to see how hot it's getting with the red embers and red coals. And then I want to also monitor how hot the pots are getting in front. The one on the left is a new one that I threw using low fire clay, which is different from these, which is all high fire clay. However, as you saw, I coated these with 3 coats, 2 coats, 1 coat, I believe that's the correct order, of low fire clear glaze. So I'm just trying to heat them up so that they won't explode. This one is my biggest concern. I actually had it in the oven, the toaster oven, for, I know, toaster oven, right? For a couple hours on 200 to try to dry it out as much as possible. But I'm gonna keep that in front so that it dries and dries and dries. It's a much more brittle clay than these other pieces. So we'll see how it does. I think it's an earthenware or something like that. But so that's going to be the next step, is using the pyrometer. Hi, so I got the pyrometer in hand. Click it on once. And here we go. So it has lasers, you can see that, to gauge. And the instructions said to put the lasers together. And it says it's 1,260 degrees at the top of the fire. If I test the outside of the log, it's only 250 degrees. So right in the fire, it gets up to, again, 1,258 degrees. If I check on the pots themselves, they're they're up at 200 degrees already on this back side. If I check the inside of that one on the left, 240, 250, it's constantly rising. So I know that I can, inside the fire, have at least 1,500 degrees that I can fire the pots at. Now that does not bring me up to a cone 1, which is between 8, I looked it up, you're welcome. Finally looked it up instead of me going, I think it's something like this. It's like between 18 and 1900 degrees is really the goal for that. So figuring out how to get it hotter to that next level, maybe adding what my friend Sabrina Thomas suggested, coal to the fire. So I'm gonna look into that. This fire is extremely hot. It's taking my breath away. So I'm gonna just close up the screen, let these sit here, let them dry out and heat up. And then I'll be actually adding them directly into the fire itself and making the fire to be sort of enclosing them or surrounding them, and then loading wood on top so I can get as hot as I can up in underneath inside the fire itself. All right, so I'm gonna leave those there for probably about half an hour, and then I'll be back to check on the temperature of the actual pots, and then I'll put them actually directly on. Since this is the 3rd time in the fire, well, this is the 4th time technically in the fire, then I'm not worried about there being moisture in there. I just don't want the shock to just completely shatter them. And the one on the left, the new big bowl, I'm gonna be turning so that it dries out, dries out, dries out. It took forever to dry out in the first place. That's why I put it in the toaster oven. We have a very nice toaster oven, it's convection, the whole deal. So I just really want to make sure, and I like the pot, I like the bowl, so I really want to make sure it gets really, really dry before I attempt even putting it on the inside of the fire. All right, see you then. Hi, so the pots have been in for about half an hour, and I'm going to now turn them and turn all of them so that they're heating evenly, and then I'll take a scan of the hot sides of them. We'll see, all right? So here we go. I'm gonna have to be careful with this and really figure out how to do this without bashing them. This seems to be pretty good at turning stuff, so we'll see. There we go, that works. There we go. That's the broken pot. There, and then, whew, this is so hot. Holy moly, that's hot. This body, I'm gonna try turning. You know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move these over so that they're out of the way, and I have easier access to this guy over here. Since I'm actually drying him out, I wanna be careful to not have him, holy shit, that's freaking hot, to not try to heat him up too fast. Because he is not, ouch, all fired. There we go. That got him nice and turned. See if I can put him back over in the corner. Try him out on the other side. All right. Okay, got him turned. I didn't know if I would need to lift him up or how I was gonna do him. And what I'm gonna do is, I'll be right back because I'm gonna go get the pyrometer and I'm gonna see how hot they are. Stay tuned. All right, so I'm back with the pyrometer in hand. Let's get it scanning. And I want to scan a couple places. So I want to scan inside the fire, but I also want to scan under the bottom because I want to see how hot it is under the bottom. If I'm able to put the pots under the bottom and they would fire. Because I would put them down, put them in just like they are. So let's get this. All right, there's got my laser. 1,000 degrees high will it be? 1,200 degrees, 1,300 degrees. Watch out, watch out, watch out. It's too hot for you to be up there. Oh, God. 1,567 degrees is right in the middle. 1,300, whoa, that just scanned 1,300. I wonder if that's on the actual metal. 1,200, 1,300, 1,350, 1,380, 1,390, 1,400 on that log right there, this log right here. Whew, hot. So I'm actually getting up to 1,400 degrees. That's not 1,800 degrees though. And that is a really hot hardwood roaring fire. So I'm gonna close it up, let these guys go for another half an hour. And then I'm gonna, 15 minutes, and then I'm gonna pop them on. I've got an actual appointment I have to leave for at 10:30, so that'll be in half an hour, so that'll be perfect. And then I'll pop them on, show you about putting them on, because underneath is definitely not as hot. So if I'm scanning in the middle underneath, well, it's 1,300 degrees. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. I'll stick them all the way in underneath, upside down. I'll do that. Alrighty, so see you in a little bit. The pots have been firing now for a little while. And as you can see underneath, they are absolutely glowing. So I'm going to take a pyrometer reading. See the pyrometer here. And let's see if we can zap from here. Oh, perfect. And see what the temperature is. 1376. The log is 1441. The one on the left is 1439, 1460. I just learned a good lesson while recording in the fireplace, and trying to videotape myself using the pyrometer, that getting this camera close within like 4 feet of the fire, or this phone within 4 feet of the fire, will overheat the phone and it will stop recording randomly. So the last couple of videos I took were like, and it stopped. And I'm like going, what's going on? Why is the screen going blank? Well, thankfully I have a good case on my phone and it didn't melt my phone, but it did get very hot to the touch because this fire, this close to it, is extraordinarily hot. It's putting off a lot of heat. So I'm gonna put another log on it, and basically I'm heating the whole house lately with this. And we're gonna keep it going, and I'm just gonna keep it going for another couple of hours, probably in 2 to 3 more hours, trying to keep that temperature up there. It's not 1800, but it's 13 to 1400 degrees. So let's keep it going, see what happens with it. Doesn't look like the clear glaze is getting to the point where it's melting and or doing what it needs to do. So, oh well, we've been trying. So we'll try different stuff in there to see if we can get it hotter and hotter in the next firings. But it'll be interesting when we pull this one out tomorrow to see what happened with it, if anything, any of it worked. As you can see underneath right there, I put the other bowl in, right? Very cool. So that is actually under there getting dried out the rest of the way. I dried it out nice and slow over a few hours and then finally threw it in underneath. The other pots are literally within the fire here, and they are red hot and glowing. All right, stay tuned. Checking back in on the pottery. Looking good. Red hot, baby. Look at that glow. That one's not so glowy. That one seems to be out to the side, but that one is definitely glowy. That's the thin one. And then the other one next to it. So I'm about to put on more wood. Doing great. Here we go. Let's see what we come up with. Here's the one. Gonna dump it out. Lots of stuff in there. With the, oh, interesting. With the jade underneath the clear and purple on the inside. I did clear glaze over it that came out pink. And this is actually really rather pretty. It's come out very swirly. The next phase will be, we'll go over to the sink. I'll meet you over there and we will wash them. Got some purple on the bottom, some black on the bottom from being in the fire. Purple came out on the inside. It's got a little shine to it. And it feels very solid. It feels very fired now, which is kind of cool. So we're good, high-pitched sound on it. All right, I think that is a success. That's a really neat little pot. It's got this little teeny foot, which I love. I just love that shape. All right, second one. This is the bowl that's gonna be thrown away. But, oh, look at that, the clear glaze worked. Hallelujah, we'll see that. So here, look at the shine. That clear glaze actually fired to clear glaze. You can see everything that's underneath it. It got hazy where it was right on the fire. But that's pretty cool. Oh, and how pretty is the inside? Oh, there's a lot of ash right there. Let's clean that up. That's very pretty. Look at that. Beautiful jade. All right. And then where there's a lot of ashes that fell into it, very gray and ashy. And this one, totally covered. There we go. And ooh, there's a little bit of shine under there. You see that little bit of reflective. I see that. That's the clear. Wow, this side We'll see if that all washes off, how that does. This had colored underglazes. You can see that shining through there. And then the inside was only, gosh, what was it? I don't even remember now. We'll have to look back to see what was in the inside. I may have just done, oh, there's purple in the bottom. That's right. Purple in the bottom, which is crackly, which is interesting. And then the sides were just the clear. It should have been shiny clear. And around the rim, you can see a little teeny bit. So that's those three. This will be fun. Next step, we'll go over to the sink. Oh, I don't want to set them in there. They're going to get stuck. All right, now let's roll up the sleeves, push back the sleeves, go in and dig in for the low fire clay. Ooh, it's still warm. Nice and warm under there. Toasty. And wow, this is so heavy. What's really weird is, so these walls are not that thick. They do get thicker. This is a very straight wall here, as you can see, and it doesn't taper as much. It does get a little thicker toward the bottom, but this clay itself is very heavy compared to these clays. Very heavy. And that fared extremely well. Look at that. No glazing on it. And interestingly, being underneath, not much discoloration. But it's fired. It's there. Oh, I did get one chip. Interesting, on the rim. You can see that right there. Little bit of a chip on the rim. Oh, that's very interesting. So then I'm thinking that I'm going to do this again. I will put this in the fire again with clear glaze to seal it. And then I will put it in the fire on top, or maybe underneath, I don't know, since it's, we'll see, we'll find out. But it's a little rough surface, which is not bad. And it's a nice texture on the side. I used a special rib that has ridges to it. So, love that. All right, let's go over to the sink, see what the results are over there. Close this up, and see you in a minute. Here we go. So we're at the sink. Let me get some nice warm water, but not too hot. So I don't want to burn my hands, obviously. All right. This is our wet bar sink. And we're going to do the throwaway pot first, just to see what the results are. Got a sponge. Try to scrub it away. So the clear gloss last coat of glaze on here is, if it's underglaze or it's under fired, I was talking to Pedro at Junk Pot Studios today. He's a guru, and he was saying that two things: if it's under fired, that it'll come out hazy, and also that if it's put on too heavily, for the clear this is, it'll come out hazy. So if you put on too much, when you dip clear, you only dip one coat, and if it's on too heavy and you do fire it at full temperature, it will not come out well, it'll come out hazy. So it looks like there's definitely some haziness there. Purple came out nice. It is glossy, somewhat, even when it's been dry, but you see all that haziness. I do love this though. Look at that texture from the underglaze. That's really neat. The texture stayed. It never flattened out. I put it on, stamped it on like this. The bottom, which I just thought I would try the glaze just directly on the clay that was underneath there after it was fired, because that's the part that just busted off 2 times. It's too thick. There's too much moisture in there. And the inside came out really pretty, crackling from it being too heavy in places, or maybe too much moisture in the clay. But the color is really pretty. That's a nice sample of what that jade Majolica, Spectrum is the brand, Majolica is the type of glaze, and the color is jade. That's a beautiful color. I really like that. So taking it apart, it's a little thick down here, is significantly thicker, so that's why. Walls aren't terribly bad, but color's nice. All right, let's move on. So I'll keep a piece of this just so that I know, like I'll keep that, like this section. And since this is high fire clay, it's really just a bisque fire. It's not a full fire. So it's, you can tell that the, oh, that's interesting. Look at the outside edge is a different color than the inside edge. I'll have to ask Pedro about that. I'll bring a sample and see what he thinks. Maybe that's just the moisture in it, but we'll see. Interesting, very, very cool. All right, let's put that over there. That I can use as a sample of what a jade will look like when fired. See if any of this black comes off, or it's sucked into the glaze. I think it's become part of the glaze. I actually really kind of like it. It'd be kind of neat to now take this in, have it fired in a real kiln, and see what happens with it. I don't think I would do that though, because I would be risking it blowing up or something catastrophic happening with it in that kiln. So it's not cracked, even though you see the cracks. That is actually just the glaze that cracked. Pretty colors, really fun inside. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't take it in unless it was like a mini kiln, which I'm thinking about maybe getting. And I would do it with, if it was by itself in a mini kiln. They do have Scott, which is the brand name. Scott has a test kiln, which only goes to bisque, I believe, which I am thinking may be an option for getting as an alternative. So there we go, there's the inside. That is super pretty. Look at all the haziness. That's 3 coats of, I believe it's 3 coats, 2 or 3 coats. If you look back in the videos, you'll know, of the clear glaze on top that never quite fired all the way. All right, and this interesting, cool crackle. Really pretty with the different colorings. Very, very interesting. Very nice. We'll see how that dries out. And then what I can do is I can wax it and it'll bring that out. And I'm told that you can just use car wax on it. So that's what I've read. I'm not told that. But I've read that you can use just car wax, which is kind of neat. So I'm going to try that. We'll do that on the video. See how that responds and looks afterward. It's kind of funny, the blue part on this scrubby thing, which is made for, it's abrasive, but not terribly abrasive. It's actually coming off a little bit. Oh, look at that. That's kind of weird. Oh, blue. Oh, so this is scrubbing down. Oh, nice. Oh, look at this. The ash is coming off. I scrubbed all the way down to the clay. Huh. Gotta be careful that I get to through the ash only, and not go through the underglaze as well. For some reason, I thought that underglaze would be more resilient than that. See how it's coming off? But I guess it's not. That's a good thing to learn, right? Because I am going right down to the layer of clay underneath in some spots. But this is getting the layer of ash off the top, revealing the underglaze, colored underglaze underneath. I can feel where it was definitely under or right on top of next to whatever hotter areas, because this does not want to come off where it's been hotter, and it comes off easily, I think, where it's been cooler. just feels different. It feels smoother where it comes off easier and rougher where it wants to stay on. Look at that, interesting, huh? It's rather pretty. I like the sort of cloudiness of it. Yeah, see right in here, you can see that it was up against the log there, because that's all that carbon. And where it was right up against the log, that outer coat does not want to come off. This was coated with the clear low fire glaze. And put back in after being underglazed and fired a couple times, or put in the, I don't know if you would even call it fireplace, if that's a thing. Gotta be careful not to scrub too hard, because I really don't want to break it, because I think this is a really cool piece that I will probably, and I kept on turning it, I'll probably have it on my shelf because I actually really like it. Oh, look at all that carbon. That's really cool. That very rough to the touch, and I bet you anything that it was right sitting on a log at that point. I did turn these regularly and consistently, not inconsistently. There we go. Let's see what I can scrub through. Thanks for sticking with me while I'm doing this. So I'm going to set that down for right now, and I'll scrub more on it, not boring you with the scrubbing part, and get back to you. So let's look at the low fire clay. This is where we're at with this right now. Very interesting, very different depending where you're at, but I love how brilliant this underglaze is. Isn't that gorgeous? The blue, purple actually, that's the purple. And I believe that's the mandarin orange. And then that's a different, this is a speedball. These are all speedball colors. So, all right, let's put that in there. I'll scrub on that. Oh, wow. So this is a discovery. Guess what did not actually end up firing, because it is disintegrating. Holy moly. Well, that tells me that it never got hot enough. Look at that. Oh, what a bummer, man. I did not even notice. Just collapsing. It's turning back into clay. Wheel. Yeah. Oh, I didn't even think of pinging it. It's not even close to being fired. Oh, that sucks. Well, I'll probably just take this back downstairs and recycle it, I guess. Find out what parts of it turns back into clay, or it doesn't stop being clay, or becomes soft clay, and what parts of it doesn't. I bet you the whole rim is not. Oh, poop. I really like this piece. Well, it's okay, I can make it again. It wasn't hard to do. Oddly enough, this low fire clay is beautiful to work with. It's very solid, very stable, very dense. As you can see, it weighs a ton. It weighs so much still because it wasn't completely fired. I probably need to, so with low fire clay, I'm thinking that the results will be, you can see that just, yep, it's definitely clay. Thinking that I'll put it in a fire and then fire it underneath, not mess with it, fire it back on, put it back up on top, and then put it in the fire, and it'll actually come out and fire up fully after a couple of fires, and just leave it in the fireplace. Wheel, lesson learned. Oh, yeah, it's just disintegrating in my hands. All right, no more water for this, because, oh, don't put that clay down. Yeah, there we go. I kept most of it in. All right, I'll see you in a few. We'll check out that other pot. And here we are, back at it. All righty. So I did as much as I could with this for cleaning it off, and that's as far as it's going to go. I did start scrubbing down through the underglaze to the clay itself, I think. Yeah. But otherwise, it's a beautiful, like, speckle clay. And bottom had popped off, so tried that. Came off in chunks there a little bit. A neat effect here. Inside was just the clear. You can see how hazy it is. And the purple is in the bottom. It's very hazy from all the, it's crackled from all the ash. So that's that. This is dried more. So you can really see on the inside, it's got a little glaze to it, a little shine to it, a little shine around the rim. Shine in that black spot, look at that. All right. And a little bit of sheen throughout the whole thing. But it looks like mainly it just gonna be Raku type of stuff. I like the crackly here though, it's really fun. So there we go, that's where we're at. And of course, ta-da, pieces.